All right, today we're talking about a lot of legal battles that are going on with veterans, specifically with some claim sharks going on, and also some insight on how to get your foot in with the federal service. Today,
Gotta get my timing down.
right, it's great to be back finally after a week off. That week off felt good, but I like to talk about this veteran stuff, so we can get
Yeah,
right in.
and there's a lot going on. Lots
Oh
going
yeah,
on.
oh yeah, oh yeah. How's your week been, by the way?
It's been good, man. You see a different background. I finally got a desk sorted out and got my studio one step closer to being ready. So working on
Yeah,
it.
I like the background, man.
Just trying to make it work. Trying to make it better.
Oh yeah. Let's see here. Oh, you know what it was? I was wondering. I was just looking at our YouTube, right? And
Mhm.
I'm looking at your mouth movement, and I'm like, why isn't the sound syncing up? It's because I'm on the wrong freaking feed. That's why. So
Wrong
anybody out there
page.
looking, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and I think LinkedIn, right?
Yep, on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. So don't do what I did and go on the wrong one and randomly things are not syncing up. So we are live on all those platforms. If you are looking to talk to us, engage with us, ask any questions regarding any kind of veterans info, John and I have both been there and done that. We're both retired. He's retired from the Army. I'm retired from the Marine Corps. And I recently retired in December of 2023. So some things are still a little bit fresh. I'm sure things are moving right along and moving and improving right as from the last time I've gotten out. But yeah, no, I'm liking the setup. I'm liking the background there, John. Looks good. Looks good. Let me see if I can blur mine.
Maybe.
It doesn't really work.
So I do have one thing that I want to bring up before we even get started with everything, and that is a big, huge thank you to everybody out there watching, listening, streaming, playing the podcast, listening to it on the radio, supporting the channel. You've really been awesome. We just hit 400 subscribers, so
oh yeah,
let's go.
Moving up in the world, huh?
Trying to get there.
Feels good. We're almost at that Mr. Beast level there.
Right, we're getting there. and for anybody who wants to know, like, there's a little inside baseball kind of joke, a little thing going on between me and Victor in the background, and what that is we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, we would appreciate it. We would love for you to be a subscriber. We'll try to bring you as much pertinent information as we can, but the idea is if we can hit 1,000 subscribers before September, I think it is, then myself and I think Victor are going to show up in Atlanta in person, and we're going to be there for the Military Influencers Conference going on in Atlanta. So that's the goal. We'll hit 1,000 subscribers, and then that'll lock in the day, and that's the bet.
Okay. Yeah, I've been wanting to go out there for a couple of years. I see the guest speakers and all that, and somebody sent me on Facebook. They sent me a link to it. We know that we didn't talk about it before. It was a prior friend that I served with. He's like, hey, dude, check this out. Maybe you could be one of the guest speakers. I'm not to that level yet, right? I don't think I'd like to go to one first to see what it's all like, rather than throwing myself up there right now. So yeah, definitely, if we get that 1,000 subscribers, we can make our way out there. We can go talk to folks, be amongst the veteran community, go do meet and greets and all that good stuff. So that's exciting. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do and help us get out there.
Yep. We'll definitely be out there recording out there as well. I'm bringing all my equipment, so I'm going to bring just a suitcase full of equipment and like a t-shirt and some flip-flops. That's it.
That's it, man. If you look like if you see some dude looking like a cyborg and with his camera, his little rig, his Go rig, that's John. I'll have my phone on.
Homeless cyborg.
Homeless cyborg. Oh man. So let's see. I'll tell you, we're going to get into a few topics here. So yeah, I brought up the federal hiring thing, right? And that's been a big topic on Facebook, several groups that I'm a part of. They talk about getting their foot in the door. I know we've had Justin on the live stream on the podcast too, and he's mentioned that he submitted like something about like 250 resumes, I think it was, in applications to USA Jobs, and he finally got one that bit, and he's got his foot in the federal hiring world right now, or the federal world right now, with the DOD, I think it is. But yeah, it does take a long time to get your foot in the door if you don't have that foot in the door yet, right? So my question to a gentleman at my job who happens to work with HR, he actually approached me. He asked me if I'm on his mailing list, his email list, and I said no, I'm not. I know him, I know of him, and I know that he's always making his rounds and talking to people. Real network type of guy. And he came and introduced himself to me at one point, and real personable dude. And he asked me, like, "Hey, would you like to be on my email list?" I'm like, "Well, what is it for?" Well, it's for like GS positions coming up. I'm like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, because right now I'm a DoD contractor, right? I work with the
Right.
Navy, DoD contractor, and he kind of let me in on some insight. He's like, "Look around, man. Look at all these people that work here." He's like, 70% of these people that work here were DoD contractors prior to making their way into a GS position. I didn't know that. I mean, I was fairly new at the time. I had no idea. And I figured, yeah, put me on your email list. Let's see what comes up. So I've been randomly getting emails from him. There's like security manager jobs coming up. There's GS-12s, 13s, things like that. And the cool thing is that they're like direct hires, right?
Hmm.
So you're already internal to that organization. They already know about you. They already know how you work and your work ethic. So it's not like they're blindly trying to bring somebody in from the outside and they're just reading their life on a piece of paper. No, they actually know the person. So I got in good with the HR folks. Again, I'm a DoD contractor at the moment, um, but I feel like that is a great way for somebody who is outside and trying to get their foot in the door in a GS position to actually start off as a DoD contractor, and expand, network yourself, go market yourself, talk to the folks in the HR who are, for me, right across the hall, really. So it's easy, and they're real personable people. And I thought, what a great idea. Maybe I got to share this on the podcast. I got to share this on the live stream because there's a ton of folks out there who don't know how to get in there, who are just, hundreds of resumes just being submitted. And it doesn't need to be that way. It can be an uphill battle, but I think the way around it is go DoD contracting, get to know folks, get your foot in that door. And it really is a part of networking, right? It really is. And you do a good job as a DoD contractor, they're going to want you on their team. Even my boss was actually in my position before she got hired on. And I thought that was incredible. I was like, man, I felt like I uncovered the code, right? Like Indiana Jones, and I've got that little stone in my hand, and I'm like, I got it.
You found the Ark of the Covenant.
I found the Ark in the Covenant, right? I got to share this information, man, because a lot of people don't know. Blindly submitting resumes, I'm like, it doesn't need to be like that. Get your foot in the door some way, somehow. Get on somebody's email list, get a direct hire, get your foot in there, start putting your TSP together, it's a whole different world. And it's great. It's great. So
Yeah, and if I could, I just want to throw in a little caveat on that as far as, because there are some folks that are overseas and trying to do the same thing. The process, the idea behind it is very, very much the same. The only caveat you have to think about as a contractor overseas, I've been a contractor overseas for many, many moons in Germany. But what that does is usually, unless you're under TISA, TESA, which is like basically it's a command sponsored contractor over here in Europe. And if you're under that umbrella, which is a long drawn out process in and of itself, you then fall into the category of being to having SOFA rights and things like that. So then if you
that's right.
wanted to go into a GS job, you could pretty much go directly into a GS job without having to deal with the local hire thing, I think. Uh, you'd have to check and make sure and do your research. But if you're a contractor overseas and you then take on a GS position, more than likely you're going to be hired on as a local hire, which means you're not going to get the housing stipend, the overseas housing allowance, and some things like that. And the SOFA thing may be a little bit iffy, depending. So you may have to just fly back to the States, spend a year in the States or whatever, 6 months, and then hire on and then come back if that's the case, if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, you'll fall under local hire, and you don't get as many benefits on the GS side as a local hire as you do being hired from the States.
And isn't that crazy how that works? Like they don't have to pay you to move out there if you're already there, right?
Right.
It's so convenient when you're already out there, but yet they make it this whole workaround where you have to fly back. You got to come back to wherever you are, Germany, Japan, whatever, and you got to get hired from the States there instead of just showing them, hey, I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm looking for this job. It happens to be, like down the street from where I live on base or whatever, and it seems like a whole workaround that it doesn't need to be like that. But I guess that's the rules, because I understand SOFA rules, and I understand people getting hired and coming out there. I was a SOFA rights advisor years ago, more for people who got in trouble. But I was kind of like part of that SOFA realm when I was in Japan, and I understand that people, who get locally hired were usually the locals, right? So they don't have that housing stipend and things like that. And some of the folks who did get hired from the States who flew out there, I think they were out there for like a limited time. I think it was a total of like 3 or 5 years or something to that effect. I just recall going like TDY at some point and coming back, and one of the ladies that worked there from the States was no longer there. I was gone for like 4 or 5 months, but she was no longer there because her time came up and she had to go back to the States, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how that works, but I mean, I'm sure you do.
It's generally a 5-year cap, and then I think they do have an exception to policy that you can extend 1 or 2 years beyond that. But again, it's the SOFA agreement between the United States and whatever local government, whether it's Germany, Italy, Spain. It's all different agreements, but they're all basically SOFA agreements. I think same in Japan as well too, and maybe Korea. But that's just an agreement that our government made with those countries, more than likely about 50 or 60 years ago, right after World War II, when we put a lot of those agreements in place. So yeah, it's like a 5-year cap.
Right. All right. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know about the 5-year cap. I thought it was just 3 years. I didn't know it was waiverable up to 5. Now, John, if you give me 1 second, let me close this window real quick.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And while you're doing that, I want to actually pull up a comment from somebody in the YouTube audience that commented earlier today. I don't know if he'll have time to jump in the chat or not, but he did put some information out there regarding U.S. government jobs. And if anybody wants to see that, it's under the comment under the short where you see the cute little pink bunny on that short. That's where the comment lives. So,
all right, is it the top one there? I fell off the cart in the process for the U.S. government job, and the job remained vacant until the hiring supervisor went to HR to complain about the rubbish candidate they were sending him. He demanded to see the full. I'm trying to read this because it's really small.
Yeah, I can read the rest of it. He wanted to see like the full list of candidates.
Okay.
And the HR department was like, here's the candidates that we got that are available. And he was like, no, I want to see all the candidates. So he got basically all the candidates from the HR department. And he picked out 5 of the candidates that he wanted to interview for sure. And one of them happened to be this guy, Luke Arts, 2954. And so by virtue of that magical process of somebody stepping in saying, hey, look, give me all the documents. I don't want to see the ones that you guys have screened already.
Right.
But he ended up getting the job. So yeah, we had a little conversation, not even about 30 minutes ago.
So he ended up getting the job because he asked, or somebody asked, to see all the hiring or the panelists, I guess, the interviewers or the interviewees. Okay, well,
Well,
that's
the
good.
hiring manager, right? So again, what
Right.
you had alluded to just a minute ago, the hiring manager has basically the authority to bring
Mhm.
on whoever they want to bring on, whether it's based on job skills and resume stuff, or whether it's based on they do a direct hire because of personal relationship, whatever, however that works.
Right.
I don't know how, you know, the
Yeah.
legalities of that stuff. I'm not a hiring manager, but I know a lot of hiring managers go out on like LinkedIn, on Facebook. They post a lot of
Mhm.
these job announcements out there because they're actively trying to get people, and they're not trying to sidestep the system, but they're trying to just be a little bit more proactive as far as getting quality resumes and getting people that are willing to come and work and want to do the work, and people that they want to come and bring in. So
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's been many times where I've applied to something on USA Jobs, and I felt like I was a shoe-in for this. Like, I was like, man, I can do every single thing that they're asking for. Like, I've done it before. I have experience. I've supervised folks, and they don't go with me. They don't go with my resume. I don't even get a second look, and I'm wondering why. What was the deal with that? I could do everything. I'd be a perfect candidate for this, and I assume it's because they have somebody in mind already. It didn't say direct hire on there, so I know it wasn't direct hire because I'm very cognizant of those things. But I assume that they already had somebody in mind, and they just legally need to put it out there on USA Jobs for the masses to apply, or whoever is that thing is for, open to the public or for veterans or whatever. So legally, they need to put it out there, but they may have somebody in mind just in case you're in that same position I was in. I will say that I have been applying to different jobs, like government jobs, like local government jobs, like state jobs. And I've been getting a lot of interviews for those, and some of them I have like no, I applied for them like 6 months ago, but I have like no interest in them anymore. Like at the time, I was like, hey, I'm getting out of the military. I just need to find anything. So one of them was like overseeing child care services. I'm like, I don't want to do that now. It's
nah,
it was like the director of like child care services, and they were
yeah,
like, hey, yeah, we'd like to bring you on for an interview. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that now. I'm in with a good company. I'm all right now.
yeah,
So I respectfully declined the interview. I did that to two of the interviews that came up. I can't remember what the other one was. It was like public works or something. Something I probably would not want to be doing. Probably closed off in an office somewhere. Um, but yeah, I mean, you may come across that where folks apply and early on before they get out of the military, and 6 months later, when they actually do give you the call back, you're like, do I really want to do that? And that's the beauty of leaving the military and having options. 'Cause now you have extra pay that can help you out. Now you don't have to do something that you don't want to do. You can actually get out there and do something you want to do. I would, in my mind, I imagine I want to be like a forest ranger and driving a four-wheeler around the forest and to get paid for that. That'd be awesome. But I have not found that job yet. At least there's not a lot of jobs like that in San Diego, right where I live. But that'd be ideal for me, I suppose. But
yeah. I
yeah,
would think that be like one of those jobs where the person actually has to like literally die to get
oh shit.
because they've only
So
got like one for the
yeah,
whole state park or whatever it is.
there was one I put up on the was the military retirement group.
Mhm.
It was a USA Jobs. I have it up here. It was grizzly bear conflict manager.
Nice.
And yeah, it's if anybody's out there, they want to see that post, you can just go on the military retirement group on Facebook. I posted it up a couple of days ago. Yeah, it was grizzly bear conflict manager. I'm wondering, like, I have so many questions. Like, why is there a vacancy for this? Like, what happened to the last guy?
Right.
I'd probably ask that in the interview. I just need to know, man. Why what does this job entail? Like, I feel like that'd be like you're a referee and you're just like, hey, stop fighting. You know, I would not get in the middle of two grizzly bears. If you've ever seen them in public in person, you know what I'm talking about. They're huge. They're immense.
Tranquilizer darts not included.
Yeah, they work. They work. Let me see here. So, yeah. So if anybody's looking to get into the federal hiring world or the GS world, that might be one way to do it. Is start off as a government contractor and get your foot in the door with the government, with the GS world. At least that's the route I'm going, and I'm getting plenty of emails, but potential jobs I might be looking at. Nothing that's really drawn my interest yet. So, like I said, once you retire, you have options, so you don't have to jump into something and hate your life. You have options now. So if you want to go out and be a security manager, you know, one of those emails, that's what I got. I didn't know if I wanted to be a security manager. I didn't know if I wanted to be in a top secret skiff for 8 hours a day, you know, a windowless skiff. So there's some upward movement with that GS position, but that's not my preferred GS position, right?
What is one of the main, or maybe one or two of the main reasons why you would go from contracting to GS, like your personal reasons? Because just to put it out there, like contracting is great. Contracting pays really well. If you work it right, you can stay along with either the company or the contract, depending on which direction you want to go. Because sometimes I think they change over like every couple of years, maybe 5 years. They'll change the contract over to another company, and that company will come back in. They'll try to hire the people who are already there. So you could really stay in a company or in a job for quite a long time. The pay is excellent.
It is, yeah.
What would be your reasons to just not do that and go GS instead?
I think maybe stability. So my contract, it was only for 2 years, right? And it ends sometime next year with the possibility of it turning over into a new contract, but that's up in the air. So that's constantly in the back of my mind. Like what happens if they don't renew the contract? Because they went with like Booz Allen Hamilton before, and then they canceled that contract, and then my company got in there. So I'm like, what happens if they don't renew this contract? Like, am I out of a job? You know, it just seems like it's more stable with a GS position, right? My wife happens to be a GS, and there's a stability factor in there that I like, you know. So I won't say anything bad about contracting, because there is nothing bad to say about it. The pay is great. The only negative, I guess, is just the time frame. There's a feeling of an unknown there, like what happens after the fact. The hours are great. You know, I don't have to go to these meetings like some of the other GSs have to go to. You know, I'm kind of I'm supporting my client, which happens to be the U.S. Navy, right, or the section that I work with at my office that supports the U.S. Navy. So I don't have to go to these, you know, formations or whatever it is. I'm not required to. I do go to it because it's just I want to be part of the group, right? But yeah, I guess that's to answer your question, that'd be the only thing that kind of holds me back from staying in a contract position. Now there are folks in my unit who have been contractors for probably up to 10 years. I met one that was up to 10 years, and he enjoys it because he likes the freedom of it. You know, just like not having to do some of the things that the GSs have to do. You know, he doesn't have to go to all the meetings. He doesn't have to stay there late if they ask him to. But then again, we miss out on things like, you know, RDOs, which are like days off. You know, I think it's revolving days off or something like that. I do miss the TSP. I'd like to get my foot back in with the TSP. Once I got out, my TSP just kind of stopped, right? I can't contribute to that. I can do 401k, and that's cool. But I know the TSP. I've done a lot of research on the TSP. I'd love to get back into that. And I can't really do it right now with being a government contractor. Yeah, I guess that'd be it, man. I mean, everything else is great. I have nothing else bad to say about it. I mean, life is good. I'm at probably a equivalent to a GS-13, but I would like to get that sense of stability and know that, hey, look, if I like this job, I got it for as long as I can perform, and not when my contract ends. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I ran into that a lot too whenever I was contracting as well.
Right.
And for me, it was a no-brainer. Like I was able to network and move my way around the organization and within the organization and outside of the organization as well, just because of the jobs that I did, interacted with so many other companies and so many other contracts out there, and just they got to see my work from the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, every once in a while somebody would approach and they'd be like, hey, we're doing this thing that's really similar to what you're doing. We're starting it off and we're going to be doing it here and building up this thing. And we've got X number of dollars thrown at us from the government for this contract. And we need to hire some people that are really smart at what you're doing. And if you're interested, we'd like to kind of poach you over and bring you over to our organization if that's something you're interested in. So I was always able to just move around, or if the contract was coming close to an end, like something would always just fall out of the sky and be like, hey, cool. But yeah, stability is definitely one thing. The other thing, the TSP thing, did you actually roll that over whenever you got out and rolled it into another fund or anything?
I didn't, and I think that was my downfall, because it was I started reading on the 401k because I didn't really know too much about it. I didn't have to know too much about the 401k, right, during my 20 years in the Marine Corps. So I didn't do that much research, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. I suppose I can still do it, but I have other things like through Vanguard and things like that that I'm kind of investing in. So I do feel like, now that you mentioned it, I should get into it, because they do like company matching. So that's something, if they like, the TSP does company matching too. So I may be losing out on some money, but thank you for bringing that up there, John.
Well, and since you said the GS jobs, like I think the GS matching is way, way better than anything the military ever got in TSP wise. So
yeah. So I definitely need to look into that, man. But yeah, it's the stability thing, man. It's just always in the back of my mind, like, oh, 2025 is when my contract ends, and I've asked HR about it, and I've gotten no solid answer. So it's like, yeah, we just have to see what the client says in the meeting, prior to. And speaking to the client, which happens to be, I know her, and she was part of the HR team out there, and she's a contracting officer. And I'm like, hey, how's everything going? She's like, oh, everything's going great. So it leads me to believe that things are going great, and I may have a job in the future, but again, don't know. But that's the beauty of it too, is, do I really need to work? I guess, I mean, I could, if I wanted to. I could take a pay cut and go work something out, go do something else. But I kind of like where I am. I like the folks. It's a sense of the culture, the environment, the personalities mesh well with what I like, and being that it's a, I came from the Marine Corps. I knew about the Navy, and being in a Navy centric office where it's a mixture of civilians and a lot of uniformed folks, it's not a straight up civilian job. So there's a lot of funny jokes that go on around the office, and I'm okay with that, right? Because I can dish them out too. And it's just a sense of understanding there. So I really do enjoy that. I really do enjoy the atmosphere there, and that I'd like to stay there if I can establish a GS position there, so I can be there more, full time, and know that I have a job there for the longer term. I would love that, but there's no telling right now.
Yeah, and it's a long process to get there either way. So
it is, but you know what? The some of these the DoD contractors, man, I'll tell you, I got hired in a week.
Yep.
It was super quick, man. It was through a referral from my network. That's why I always push it out, man. Like, if you can network, if you can open your mouth and market yourself, do that. Network, man. Because yeah, it was through my network. I sent over my resume. They sent it over to the hiring manager because they just happened to have an opening, and like with exactly what I knew how to do. And they read my resume. I got a call a week later. Hey, look, read your resume. We like what we see. We want to know if you're available this time for, interview. Interview was like, hey, it was like a 5-minute thing. He's like, hey, have you supervised these people? Tell me about budgets you've worked with. Cool. When can you start? I'm like, what? And can I do it in 2 weeks? Because I was still on terminal leave, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, 2 weeks is fine. Here's your onboarding information. You're going to receive emails from HR, fill these things out, whatever. I'm like, excellent. So was double dipping there through the government because I was still on terminal leave and working as a contractor. So that was pretty great. I had no issues with the pay. I didn't even argue with the pay. I was like, hey, whatever, just I'm good with that. Let's move forward, So DoD contracting is definitely a faster way to get your foot in the door. Yep. And there's a ton of them out there, man. There's a ton. Oh, yeah. It's just a matter of where you want to work. And if you know exactly how to work that, like there's a lot of, missile defense stuff. There's a lot of Army centric stuff. A lot of that crap I don't even know, dude. So, I mean, it's a matter of, are you open to learning something new? And if you are, shit, the world is your oyster, right? You get in there and just start learning. Navy is very abbreviation centric. So I feel like I'm opening up the SOP like every day because half things they're talking about, I'm like, coming from a Marine standpoint, I'm like, all right, I know like MAGTF and I know this and that. I don't know about, whatever the hell they're talking about. So ships and stuff like that. So, but that doesn't mean I can't learn. So that's the thing. Continue educating yourself and expanding your knowledge, and you can make it anywhere, man.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So let me see here.
Want to shift gears?
Yeah. I'm opening up the notes here. So
let me throw my magic thing on the screen real quick. Give me 2
Sure.
seconds. 2, 1.
Man, I love that. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about Guard VA Benefit Act. Okay, so this thing is something that they were trying to push last year. Okay, so basically it says it imposes criminal penalties on individuals for directly or indirectly soliciting, contracting for, charging, or receiving any unauthorized fee or compensation with respect to the preparation, presentation, or prosecution of any claim for Department of Veteran Affairs benefits. So basically what it is, it's claim sharks, right? They call them claim sharks. So folks who say that, hey, look, if you come up to somebody like, hey, look, I'm at 80%, I want to get to 100. How do I do that? Well, I know a guy, you just got to pay him 3 months worth of your VA disability once it gets raised, right? So if you happen to go from 80 to 100%, that's a significant jump, and you got to pay these people that significant amount, the difference of that, or whatever it is they're asking. I just say 3 months because somebody I talked to mentioned that they had to pay them 3 months, whoever they went through, 3 months worth of their 100% VA disability amount, which $4,000. So that's what, $12,000 just to get them 100%. I mean, 100% is a significant amount, and they might have been okay with paying that. But holy crap, man, like they're trying to cut down on this stuff because there's organizations out there who do it for free.
No.
I personally went through the DAV. It was completely free for me, right? They get paid through the DAV. They provide the service. I had a great experience with my side, but there's folks out there who charge an enormous amount of money, and they said that these companies prey on veterans, charging exorbitant fees that should be criminally penalized. There's some argument on that act saying that, how can we hold people accountable if it's not criminally penalized? So now they're turning it into like a criminally penalized thing so they can hold these folks accountable. All right. So let me see. What are the pros and cons? I had a little thing written on here. Yeah, you can get 100%. That's cool, but you have to look at, it's unqualified. So there's no definite that you're going to be getting 100%. If you're at like 50%, you want to raise it up. You may not reach that 100% threshold. You may get 70%, and you're having to pay a big amount for it. I mean, I have a level of confidence knowing that I can look at my own stuff, and if I needed to, like knowing what I know now versus what I knew then, I could get myself up if I needed to, right? Just knowing, just reading the DSM-5, which is like that medical manual, and going through all the medical stuff, everything I've read, because I've done extensive research on this. And that's what these folks do, I think, is they do the research, or maybe they've been with the Veterans Affairs before and they know how it works. And now they go outside of there unqualified, unaccredited, and they start charging for this. There's stuff like where is it? When they were at that meeting recently, it was organizations like Wounded Warriors, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Blue Star Families, the VFW leadership, and the DAV. They were all arguing like, hey, we get this for free. There's no reason why, or we do this for free. There's no reason why veterans out there who are, injured, who have actual injuries or issues, should be paying for any of this. And that's a true statement. You've served your country. Some folks may feel like they don't get the proper customer service from these organizations, but again, I can't speak highly enough about the DAV. I went through them, and it was a great organization and a great experience for me. I mean, it was very in depth, and maybe ask around and see who the best VSO, Veteran Service Officer, is around your area, and just kind of go with that person. That's exactly what I did. And there was different organizations, and I just happened to know more people that went to the DAV. So I'm like, okay, they had a good experience, then I may have a good experience with them. And I went over there, introduced myself, built that rapport. Didn't go in there demanding things like, hey, I need to get 100%. No, like, hey, ma'am, what do you need from my side? I'll do the legwork for you. Just let me know what you need, right? Because it is my claim. I'm going to do all the legwork I can to assist this person in submitting my claim. And it went well. It went extremely well. So yeah, that is the Guard Benefit Act. And the last thing that came up with that was the last movement was last year, where they had a committee on VA hearings on April 26th of last year. And I think that it's gaining a lot more attention, at least when I looked it up online. There was more talk about it from all these different organizations. And also that site you just brought up too, where the VFW is pushing for it more, because I guess there's an increase in these claim sharks. I mean, you can see them all over Facebook, man. They're all over the place. Yeah, there you go. That site right there. And that was what dated last month, just last month. So,
Yep.
yeah, just know you don't have to pay for this stuff, man. There's so many organizations out there that do it for free. You can go to the VFW, DAV, Wounded Warriors. They all help out.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's not only this, but like just the military in general, and probably now, like people in general. There's so many different people out there trying to make a quick buck or make some really good money really fast. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know about you, but I saw it many times throughout my military career. Like if you go right outside the gate of whatever base you're on, like there's always like the used car dealer, there's like a tattoo shop, there's like a liquor store, and then there's like this little shady like loan shark place that'll loan you like payday cash for 60% interest on it or whatever, 50% or whatever it was. So predatory lending, this just happens to fall into the same kind of category. Just on the back end, like after you get out and you're trying to do your VA claim, they're trying to predatorily get you to get money. And I'm not saying it's not a legit business. Like, sure, like you said, like if you feel like you want to spend $12,000 or $15,000 to get it done, and you're comfortable with that, by all means. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's P&T and not just 100%.
Yeah, right.
Because they can,
Because they could reevaluate you, and that
yeah.
could go away. So
the
just
VA giveth
understand
and the VA taketh away. So
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
yeah, it just highlights the importance of organizations like the VFW and some of these organizations that actually go on Capitol Hill and sit in some of these hearings and these Senate committees and things like that, and they speak to veterans issues, right? They're fighting for us all day long, every single day. So
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
not a member of a VFW or a local organization like that, that's what they do. Like they go to Congress, they go to Washington D.C., things like the AUSA, like a lot of these different organizations, they're out there on Congress on the steps of Capitol Hill, like literally fighting for the rights for veterans, for military members, for military spouses, for our families, for all the benefits that we incurred over time that maybe they're trying to take away or reduce. Like they're fighting for that stuff all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of this stuff, like you mentioned the predatory lending and all that. I mean, when I was in Camp Lejeune years ago, there was just a ton of that right outside the gate, right? It was, or even, what was it, Camp Pendleton? That's what it was. Ton of that stuff outside the gate. We service or we finance E1 and up. I'm like, well, you can't get any lower than E1. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to finance a freaking boot camp recruit, right? Because they know that you have money coming in, right? So there was a gentleman I worked with, and when I got to Camp Lejeune, and he actually, because there's a ton of those out there as well, right outside the gate, he actually went up and spoke to the government whenever they had a meeting. He worked legal assistance. He was an attorney, older gentleman, civilian. And he actually wrote a book, and I wish I had his name. I can't remember it. Archer is his last name, Archer, and he wrote a book about predatory lending and how folks take advantage of, the military, especially at the young age. And that all stems from the leadership too. Like they need to educate their folks too. And it's been getting better, I think, especially with like all these PFCs, these E1s coming through with Camaros at like 28% interest and things like that for 190 months, longer than they'll be alive. Right. So, yeah, he wrote this book and he got all these places blacklisted. There's a list. I don't know if it's just in the Marine Corps. I'm sure that the Army has something like that too. There's a list that comes out from the commanding officers, and they put all these businesses that are blacklisted. A lot of them are like smoke shops. A lot of them are like strip clubs and things like that, where people get in trouble, right? Or tend to get in trouble more often than not. And he put these all on there, and a lot of them went out of business for that reason. And then he went up and spoke about it to, I don't know if it was Congress or local government or what, about predatory lending and issues with these E1s going out there and just getting taken advantage of. So it's definitely something we need to look out for. But regarding veterans, this is the way to do it. The right way to do it is to go through the VFWs, go through these veteran service organizations that are accredited, and actually get your stuff done that way. If you're okay, like John said, going and paying 12 grand or whatever it is to get yourself hopefully to 100% PNT, then, that's on you, but it's all good. I'm not telling you not to do that. Do what you'd like. It's your life, but they're fighting for a reason, because people are getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there for a second because I was
No,
checking
you're all good.
on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn comments don't seem to come up in here that we can see, so I popped up on LinkedIn real quick to jump in the comments.
Nah,
just in case.
You're all good. No worries. I did want to touch a little bit on this Supreme Court decision that just came out just last week on the veteran GI Bill, both the Montgomery and the post 9/11 GI Bill. So this was really good. A great read. I did a little short video on it on the Green Logbook. Got some good responses on there. So there was a 7-2 ruling. That's like the judges, right? All the judges are ruling on it. 7 were in favor that veterans can now get both the post 9/11 and the Montgomery GI Bill. Okay, so there was a point in time during their service. I don't know if they do it anymore, right? I don't think they do it anymore, but at least during my time, there was a point in time where I had to make a decision whether I wanted to opt into the post 9/11 or stick with the Montgomery GI Bill. And you actually have to sign something saying, hey, I'm going to physically opt out of this and go into this, right? So the argument is that this gentleman, James Rudisil, he was attempting to he applied to Yale Divinity School to become an Army chaplain. Once he got accepted, he tried to utilize his Montgomery GI Bill because he had exhausted his post 9/11 GI Bill, and was told by the VA, hey, look, that's not the way it works. You don't have that anymore because you opted out of it. Okay, well, what the heck? So he found some attorneys to help him out. They brought it up to the Supreme Court ultimately, and the Supreme Court ruled in his favor, saying that, hey, look, if you're a veteran and you have served during the periods that overlap with both versions of the GI Bill, you're now entitled to both, right? For a cap of 48 months. So if you use your post 9/11 GI Bill for 36 months at its cap, you now have an extra year to use your Montgomery GI Bill. So that is a great thing for folks, especially if they're like trying to search for ways to continue their education. Maybe they don't have enough months in order to finish their bachelor's or master's or whatever it is, or maybe they want to go get a certificate or get some kind of technical education. That's great, man. An extra 12 months is huge. There was a comment on here by one of the justices, Justice Jackson, wrote in the court opinion, the statutory text resolves this case in Rudisil's favor. Rudisil earned 2 separate entitlements to educational benefits, one per Montgomery GI Bill and the other per post 9/11 GI Bill, by serving in the military for nearly 8 years over 3 separate periods. Rudisil was entitled to both benefits, and he had no need to swap one set of benefits for another. So again, if you served for during the time where you had to transition from the Montgomery GI Bill to the post 9/11, you should be covered for both of those. Now, there's a couple of knowns and unknowns. I saw on on our military retirement group, somebody had mentioned that they called the VA to inquire about that, and the VA, whoever the rep was on the VA side, had mentioned, hey, look, we don't know anything about that. The cap is still 36 months. I figure because maybe the ruling was so fresh, because this guy called like the next day. So maybe it's so fresh that it takes time to trickle down, especially with the VA, things don't really work too fast. So maybe it's going to take some time. That's the unknown. How long will it take before this actually takes effect? I don't know. I wish I had an answer, but I'll keep doing research and put that out on the military retirement group once I find out about it. I'm sure we'll touch on it on the podcast once that actually goes into effect. Mm-hmm. Another unknown, I think, is if there's going to be any limits on time frames to use that extra amount of the Montgomery GI Bill that you get. So I think there's like I think they call it the forever GI Bill, where it was capped at 10 years. Now it's no longer capped, but that's for the post 9/11. I don't know about the Montgomery GI Bill. I don't know if that's capped or what. So they could very well come out and say, hey, look, you only have, 5 years, 10 years to use this, and then you lose it. So hopefully that's not the case, because I didn't see any of that in the ruling. Another thing is, if there's going to be any usage of BAH or changes in BAH. So currently, under the post 9/11 GI Bill, if you're going to school in person full time, you get E5 BAH, which, if you're living in California, it amounts to about $3,800 a month, a significant amount. If you're getting that for the post 9/11, and then you have that additional amount of 12 months for the Montgomery GI Bill, I don't know if you're going to be getting, if anybody's going to be getting any kind of BAH for that. Or I know there's a housing stipend along with the Montgomery GI Bill, but I don't know if what that's going to be, if it's going to be the full amount for the post 9/11, or if it's going to be something completely different. So that's up to the VA to come out with and kind of put that information out there. A lot of unknowns right now, but it's on my list, on my favorites. So I'm doing research on that stuff. But the good thing is that this guy James Rudisil, his lawyers did come out and say that there's about 1.7 million veterans who could benefit from this, those who have served during these two time frames. So that's a huge thing. I think anybody who is looking to get their education and on point and established, this is a huge deal. I know I'll be taking advantage of this, and I hope other folks out there will do the same.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, he actually got the regular GI Bill as an enlisted member, and then he got the post 9/11 as a officer, if I remember correctly in the reading. So it was two different tours basically that he did, because he came off of active duty, I think is what it was. Went to school, got his degree, and then came back in as an officer. And that's that's what he was trying to do again to become a chaplain, was to come off of active duty maybe and use his GI Bill post 9/11 to get his chaplaincy degree.
So. Yeah. So, and that's, that had to have been a kick in the gut, man. Like you got accepted to Yale. And when they're asking, hey, how are you going to pay for this money, or how are you going to pay for these classes? Oh, I got my GI Bill. Right. Well, no, you don't, says the VA. So hopefully he gets his foot back in the door with that, man. Hopefully Yale kind of reevaluates that and lets him back in there. He's been out for quite some time, but hopefully he can get that going again. That is huge, because he has just done a great thing for veterans all over, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I actually believe, a lot of people, a lot of the things that I've read said that a lot of people were like, even the I guess maybe the justices of the Supreme Court, I don't remember if it was them exactly who said it, but somebody was like, yeah, maybe, or maybe it was the VA. It might have been the VA that came back and said in a statement, like, we're not really sure it's 1.7 million people. Like,
that's right.
The way I look at it is, if you look at the total number of people who have downloaded the VA app on the App Store, is like 2 million people, right? So and then just figuring out if you've fallen into that category of, did you opt in for one or the other, or did it just automatically carry over? Was the paperwork actually processed and put through? So yeah, there's a lot of variables in there, but if you can do it, like, that's awesome. And you can extend your time, especially if you're trying to go to school. Another thing I'll mention school wise is looking into like the vet tech program through the VA. Which is another way you can recoup some of that post 9/11 and still get further down the line with your educational stuff that you're trying to accomplish, and still potentially get some of that BAH and some of those other things that you get with the post 9/11 without actually having to use your post 9/11 resources to do that. So there's tons of different ways to do it. I think we highlighted one of the channels last time we talked. Not actually two lives ago, where one of the channels where one of the guys actually talks a ton about vet tech and that program, and getting processed, and finding your vet tech counselor and talking with them, and then getting approved and all that stuff. So it's definitely something to dig down and like pull the string on, figure out if that's something for you, because that definitely opens up a ton more opportunities as far as education is concerned. I just re-enrolled in school after a decade of taking school off, really just with the goal of finishing my degree. Yeah, because it's something that I started a long time ago and just kind of carried with me over and over and over. I mean, what am I going to do now with the degree? Probably nothing. Like, let's be honest. What do I need it for right now? But who knows? But yeah, I'm looking into all those things right now. I'm using post 9/11, and the stipend helps a ton.
Yeah.
because I'm still in that process of onboarding with a government job that's been taking months and months and months and months and months. So the stipend definitely helps. It's a very nice amount of cash. Plus, you get stipends for books and things like that. So there's a couple little small add-ons along with that. But yeah, I would definitely dig into that tech thing. And there was another one that you had mentioned in the Facebook group as well, or was that the same, the vet tech?
It was, I think it was VRNE.
Oh yeah, VRNE. Sorry, VRNE is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And vet tech was the other one. So VRNE is the one that you can take and recoup some of your 9/11, post 9/11 GI Bill stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, what better way to get ahead a little bit, right, is just educate yourself on anything, really. There's a gentleman I ran into at work, and he had mentioned, hey, I only got 11 months left on my, he had just gotten his degree. He had his first degree while he was in the Navy. He got out, and he's working an analytics job. So he got a degree in analytics. And he's like, yeah, I have 11 months left on my GI Bill. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'm like, well, actually, you have 22 months left or 23 months left on your GI Bill now, because you have this extra 12 months. And I educated him on the Supreme Court thing. He was like, wow, that's amazing. He's like, now I have all this education that I need to do something with. I'm like, why don't you do something that you want to do, right? It doesn't have to be something like directly related to your job. Maybe you want to learn, I don't know, carpentry, and there's a carpentry school. Go out and figure that out. Go out and get your HVAC. Go out and get a technical, education. Become an AC repair person or refrigeration or electrician, something. So you have not only that knowledge, but there's something if you want to change directions and you don't want to be in the office environment anymore, you can go out and be an electrician because you now have that information. You now have that knowledge. So that's an exciting thing, I think.
Yeah.
And I've long wanted to go and be a helicopter pilot. So I'm like, maybe I'll use that for like flight school or something.
Yeah, they do have I came across it not too long ago that they do like a program. I don't know if it's the VRNE, but it's one of those programs where they actually pay for your whole entire, like they cover your whole entire flight school and everything. Hopefully the hours you have to fly as well, and the fuel and the parking costs and all that stuff. But I want to say there's one out there that I came across. I'll have to look it up and see if I can find it.
I think it is VRNE. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exciting, man. Because there's ways like these things like vet tech, VRNE, different scholarships out there. There's ways to get around not having to touch your GI Bill right off the bat, and then getting your education and then coming back to it, and then you have now 40 years worth of education you can take, you can utilize. And if you're 100%, if you didn't go through one of the claim sharks and you're 100%,
and it's me.
Yeah. That you also have like Chapter 35, where your dependents now don't have to use your GI Bill. That can be reserved for yourself, and they have now Chapter 35, and then they get their own schooling, right? I'm not sure about different states and all that stuff, but I know in California too, there's the CalVet. So not only is Chapter 35 where they can get different schooling, CalVet offers them a chance to, at least my dependents, a chance to go to any state university for free. So there's a possibility that, even my kids can get up to their master's degrees and beyond from all that stuff. So it's definitely worth looking into the education piece, the maybe looking at your VA disabilities and, trying to up that, the correct way. There's definitely ways to improve all that stuff, but it just takes the person want to do it, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we're going to have, I believe it's next weekend, we're going to have Clay Sims, the Civ Div. If you haven't checked him out on YouTube, he talks about VA claims and all that stuff a lot. Yeah. He goes into depth a lot on a lot of things. He's a really super smart guy. He breaks down every step of every process. He does one-on-one calls with people. He does a lot of really good stuff, him, and then there's another YouTuber, and they kind of been working together to do a separate channel. But these guys are really, really in depth on the VA process, on the VA claims, how the claims work, how some of the ailments. He goes through and spells some of those out. And so he should be on next Sunday if everything works out and the stars align.
That's awesome, man. And just educating and helping educate the next veteran over is just it's awesome. That's why this channel exists, and that's why I love being a part of that. Just coming across folks who I can help out in some way, shape, or form, and help them get their education, or maybe there's something that we say out there that helps them in their life, or submit their claim. Whatever it is, it's great to be a part of this. You see what else do we have here? We talked about our 400 subscriber milestone. That was great.
Yep. I do have a thing I can bring up real quick to talk about, and it's related to VA claims, and it's just something I was tinkering with the other day. I put it up in the Facebook group, so I figure I'll take the last little bit of the show here to talk about it real quick and just give people an idea of what's going on. But so essentially, when I'm looking at the VA site and looking through all the, matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up. CFR 38. I think that's it, right? CFR 38. Yep. Come on, internet. So if you pull up go to the VA site and something like the CFR, right? The CFR basically spells out every single ailment, every single part of the body, line by line. Some of these are even still empty, so they're still waiting for documentation, but you can see there's a ton of information in here. And there's two sad things, right? One of the sad things about this, and if anybody from the VA is listening and you have an ability to influence this, please do, because yes, I like making my own tools, but at the same time, like, not everybody out there is, a tech savvy person and wants to go through all the hardship and pain. It took me literally about 2 hours to grab all this information, put it together on one document. I had to go use my wife's computer because she's got a different version of Microsoft of Microsoft Word. And so I had to, because I couldn't open it on my MacBook on my Microsoft Word for whatever reason, because it's a .doc file and not a .docx file, which is the new version of Microsoft Word. So this was probably written a while ago, saved in a file format from 5 versions of Microsoft Word ago, if anybody knows what that means. So there's a couple documents on here that are PDFs, but the majority of them are Microsoft Word, and they're the old version of Microsoft Word. So if you don't have the new version of Microsoft Word, you can't open this document. It really sucks. So just to show you an example, like, here's one of the pages, and each one of those links that I showed you is basically a page like this, where it spells out, like, this one's talking about age and service connected claims, analogous ratings, application of the rating schedule. So this information is basically the line by line doctrine of what the VA uses, I guess, to reference things and to validate claims. It's part of the claims validation process. They even have the chart in there that does the calculations. But what I wanted to do was take all that information, put it together, and be able to go through the information and ask questions of the information itself, rather than having to sit there and Control F and try to find what I'm looking for and then interpret it and blah, blah. So I basically took all of that documentation, I stuffed it into ChatGPT, and I created a GPT. So the only way you can do this is to have the paid version of GPT, which is like $20 a month, which is basically a Netflix subscription per month. But what it allows me to do is basically get direct access to all this documentation and be able to query the documentation, meaning I can ask it questions about the documentation specifically. I told it specifically, like, do not go outside of this document that I gave you. Do not try to get creative with your answers. Just go off of the information that I fed you, right? And as you see, I can do this. How is the VA percentage calculated? And so basically what I can do is I can just ask it questions and it'll go through every part of the documentation and it'll give me answers. This question right here, how the VA percentage calculated, this is a big question. Like a lot of people ask this question because not a lot of people know. Like you try to figure it out. You try to see how that works. You try to understand like what the ratings mean. It's not just add all the ratings up and then just take the sum and then divide by the number of ratings you have. Like there's a calculation chart for it. I don't know if I put that in the can you show me?
Could you put in like numbers if somebody had a VA rating, several VA ratings of, 20%, 20%, 18 or 80%?
Yeah.
Could you see if something adds up to 100?
Yeah, let me do this real quick and then we'll do that one next. The combined ratings table, right? So this is basically the table of how combined ratings work. And this gives you the combined percentage on the left, and then it gives you the breakdowns on the right. And when they calculate it, they do everything below 5, they round it down, and everything above 5, they round it up, right? So let's see. I have a rating. I have ratings of 10%, 20%, 20%, 50%, 20%, sorry, 10%, and 10%. What is my overall VA rating? Sorry. Yeah, so this is pretty intuitive. It's really,
it is.
It makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to a bunch of other people, but for me, this gives me the information that I need to understand.
Oh, that's perfect right there. Yeah. You have a disability rating of 79, rounded up to the nearest 10%. You would officially have 80%. That's John, you have just created a monster, dude. Look, this is amazing. We could talk about this offline. Later on, but
that's why I'm putting it out there. I mean, I could take this and turn it into something. What I could ideally do is take this and code it and make it completely offline, so it's not really directly connected to ChatGPT. You don't have to have their subscription to use it. It would just be its own little website thing. But that's
only could be an app too.
Yeah, I could totally make it into an app or whatever, but that's only if if there's really a need for it. Otherwise, I just tell people like, here's how you do it. And again, it took me a good hour, 2 hours to put all that. It was mainly just getting the documentation, downloading it, opening up each document, combining them together, putting them in one like contiguous document, and then taking that document and throwing it into ChatGPT and giving it a really good prompt to specifically tell it like, don't go crazy, don't start hallucinating, don't tell me stuff that's on the internet somewhere randomly that you think like just use the document.
No, this is awesome because there's a lot of folks out there who ask. I do searches on Facebook groups a lot, and I happen to land on a lot of those things. Like, hey, look, what's my rating? And it is like VA math is kind of like all over the place. It's one of those 1 + 1 = 4 type of things. So a lot of people don't know. If this was available to a lot of folks, it would take the guesswork out of all that. Like it's hard because all those things don't add up to 79 or 70% or whatever, and then all of a sudden randomly it adds up to like 80% if it's over a certain threshold, right? I think that there's a need for that. I really do. For me, for instance, it was my ratings added up to like 400% randomly, and I'm like, I can't get 400%, right? So they had to cap it off somewhere.
Be nice.
Yeah, but I definitely think that there's a need for something like that. Making it as simple as, and on an app or something where somebody could just download it and, hey, look, if you want to support the app, here's whatever, get us a cup of coffee or something, or get
Yeah.
you a cup of coffee.
Buy me.
Something to that effect. That's
Buy me a coffee.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, buy me a coffee. That's it. That's all it is. I mean, these things are expensive now. I don't know. I'll tell you what, man. I just went through, and this just gear change real quick. Quick story. I went through a fast food drive-through line, and I just got 4 burgers and 4 fries on our way back from a little league practice. Came out to $50, dude. That's crazy how high prices are getting these days.
Was that In-N-Out burger? Like, what was that?
No, it was Chick-fil-A. It was Chick-fil-A, but it was $50, man. I'm like, holy crap, man. I gotta take out a freaking VA loan for this.
That's
For
insane.
this meal. Yeah. So it's definitely getting up. But anyway, more power to folks to figure out, for at least for you to do the app or, continue on with this, because, folks who are not as tech savvy are not going to put all the information in there into a chat GPT and, look at that. Michael bought a coffee.
Yeah. I just want to bring this up. This happened a couple weeks ago and it totally slipped my mind. I think it's because we didn't record last weekend, but
Yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to Michael. This is the first cup of coffee that that's been purchased towards the military retirement podcast's umbrella of organizational conglomerates. So I want to give him a big shout out. He's a trooper. He's a champ. He got his 100% P&T as well, and he bought us a cup of coffee. So you can knock 5 off of that 50 you spent.
That's awesome. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. Thanks. I'm tired of making my coffee at home. Thank you for buying us one. No, that's great, man. We really do appreciate it, man. Any little bit helps, especially with all the behind the scenes things that we're doing here. It really does help any little bit. But no, that's great, man. I think John, I think you're onto a great thing there. I think that's going to go far with a lot of folks. And once we get the word out, I think a lot of folks could benefit from something like that, because it is a mystery. VA math is a mystery. So yeah, I like it. I like where it's going.
Yep. We'll see if I can carve out some time and sit down and code it, pull up my coding brain again and open that back up. So nobody likes to see the coding brain.
Yeah. And soon enough, we're going to be releasing a guide, right? A guidebook for veterans,
You want a sneak peek?
Yeah. Give us a sneak peek. Not too much. Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit.
Just the tip.
Just I wasn't going to say it, but all right.
I'll say it. I don't care. Just let's see here what we got going on. I don't know if I can blur that out. It's all good. Whatever.
No, it's all good. You can just zoom it in, I suppose.
Can do that. There we go. We're good.
Yeah, but this is going to be awesome, dude. It's just bottom line up front. Give me the bluff. What you need to know before you leave the military, and that, I think it's going to help out a ton of folks, because like I've mentioned before on the show, transition readiness seminars only give you so much, and I wish that we would have, or at least the government would invest a little bit more in putting out a great product from military to civilian, right? Giving us full on, like, more than a week of classes to encompass an entire 20-year career, and then moving on to a completely different path that is the civilian world. So John has compiled a ton of information in here in this guidebook, and we intend to put it out soon enough. But just to kind of help out folks, like, hey, look, maybe you haven't thought of this, but here's a little something that you may want to think about, regarding finances, or careers, education, etc., to help out the next brother or sister who's getting out. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's really not advice or anything like that. It's not like some kind of guru book or anything. It's really just like you said, some things that you might want to consider, that whether they apply or whether they don't, it's pretty much a smorgasbord. Like if you want to read about this thing, you can go read about it, but it's kind of like the top 10, things that we see over and over and over in the chats, the conversations that we have, in the interviews that we do, and we try to combine that and put it all together and get the 10 most important things that veterans think about or maybe need to know as they transition out from military back to civilian life. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. It is great, because I know there's a ton of stuff that I've never even thought of to ask during my transition readiness seminars. And I only found out about those things after I left the service and started doing deep dives on these, podcasts and trying to help out veterans and things. So I learned more as I went along, of course, asking questions. There's a ton of things that I wish I would have asked during these seminars that I didn't even know of,
No.
but these would be great pieces of gear for anybody getting out, I think. That's excellent.
Yeah, even after doing this for like 3 years already, I guess it's been about 3 years. I continually, every single interview I do, I continually learn something new about the retirement process, about transitioning out of the military, about veterans benefits. Like there's always something new that I learn from this interaction that I have with you and with other people on the podcast. It's incredible and strange.
Yeah. And it could essentially be a living document, right? Because as we know, things change, the VA changes the regulations, laws change. So it could be a living document where a update 2.0, 3.0, and later on, maybe next year, we encompass all those changes and republish it out.
Yeah. Or we can do like the VA and split it up into each individual paragraph and make each paragraph a separate Word document saved in Word 97.
Yeah. Saved in some crazy format that nobody ever uses, right?
I love the VA. I love you guys. You guys are amazing guys and girls. The whole entire organization of the VA. Just fix the documentation, please, for the love of God, if you're paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we can get that push for that. No, that's awesome, John. I appreciate you putting that together, man. It's going to help a ton of people out, I think.
Yep.
I know I read through it. I'm like, I know it helped me. And it's like a clickable document too. So you can just click and it'll take you to the paragraph. So very user-friendly. The interface is great. The formatting is awesome. So yeah, it's good stuff, man. A lot of folks are going to benefit from that for sure.
Yeah. Just waiting on my my editor-in-chief.
Hey man, I got some changes, man. I got a little bit of additions. I think everything else for the most part is good. Just a couple little additions on there, and then that's all good. And then we can slap the name on there and publish that thing.
I didn't want to put it out without talking to you first. So
yeah, no, awesome, man, awesome. But yeah, a lot of folks are going to benefit from that. And I know that's one of the questions too on the military retirement group when folks go to join up. I do mention that, hey, look, we're going to be publishing some guidebooks and things like that. If they want to be on the guest list to receive that stuff, just share your emails with us and then we'll shoot it out to you. It doesn't mean we're not going to publish it somewhere else online, but, you'll be the first to know if, just share your email. I have it all on my Word or my document there, a whole email list of folks. We're close to, it's close to like 400 emails that I have.
Nice.
Yeah, but they'll be the first ones to receive it. And then later on down the line, I'm looking to publish my own book on experiences and all that stuff that going from the military to civilian transition, which is separate from this guidebook. But, I'll be shooting out some word on that later on when time comes closer. But yeah, if you haven't already joined up the military retirement group, we'll share a lot of good information, a lot of good documentation there for medical stuff, VA medical stuff. It's just a good group of folks that are on there. Very collaborative. A lot of folks who ask a lot of good questions. Some of which I don't know, and I don't think you may know, John, but somebody out there knows. So a lot of reservist questions that I don't know of, but somebody's out there is going to know. So I do enjoy the folks in that group, and thank you for all the folks who are listening from the group who have joined. We really appreciate you.
Yep, that's a great place to wrap. I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover today. So
Yep.
yeah, if you do want to get kind of like first insider copy of the guidebook before it gets pushed out to the rest of the world, be sure to get in contact with us, get in contact with Victor, and drop him your email address so we can get you on the list. And yeah, other than that, that's all we got. We enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it was helpful. And if you are watching this on YouTube or any of the social media platforms, give us a like. If you felt it was useful for you, we appreciate all your comments. We're digging back through those as well. So stay tuned. We'll be back next Sunday. We're going to be back next Sunday at 12.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, if it changes, I'll let you know.
Okay. So either 11 and 12, right around lunchtime.
Yeah.
So you can grab some food and sit down and hang out with us.
Absolutely. Well, John, again, it has been great talking with you again this week, and everybody out there who's listening. Thank you for joining us again. We'll see you next week.
All right. See everybody later.